Hello, and thanks for your interest in Blue Moon's container management for Dynamics GP. With container management, you can track single or multi-container shipments from your vendors, giving you a one-step receiving process either at the time the items leave the port or when they arrive at your loading dock. It all starts with your purchase orders. You'll create your purchase orders to your vendor the same way as you do today, just by entering a regular purchase order. By taking a look at a purchase order we have here, we've got a few items on this purchase order, and if I drill down on one of them to the item maintenance window, you'll see this additional item here. In this window, we've added an item apportionment window, and that gives you the ability to add in a purchasing cubage, which is your dimensions, as well as the purchasing weight. What this does is it assists us in creating that container and then also giving you some additional capabilities in the areas of calculations of landed cost. So once the purchase orders are entered into the system, you'll create the manifest. Now, as you may know, the manifest might have all of the items on a purchase order on it. It might have multiple purchase orders on it. It might even have multiple purchase orders within that container from multiple vendors. All of that is supported by container management. So by creating a new manifest for this particular container, you can start to build the contents of the container that's going to be shipped to you. We'll put in a container number here, and you'll see that there are a number of user definable data elements along the way here, including identifying the container type. So if you have information about the type of container, you can enter them in here. We do give you a few standards to get started, and we'll include the total, the weight that's allowed, and also the cubage that's allowed, so that if necessary, you can start to manage that as you start to build the container. So we'll select a container here, and you'll see that you have the ability to start adding information. The freight forwarder, the agent, the vessel, and at each point you can either select from a vendor on the list, or you can also develop your own list of different agents that you might have in the system. In addition, with the vessels, you can build the different vessels and then also identify port of registry, which could be very important as you're tracking this container through its journey. If we select one of our vessels, we'll see here we can also confirm the port of origin and the port of entry, which also could be important as you start to track this along the way. These dates are completely configurable. If you want to track all of the information about this particular container, you'll know that from the beginning there'll be dates, and then often those dates will change as the vessel starts getting closer to you and that container starts to get closer to your particular loading dock. So right now we might anticipate that it's going to be shipped by the end of the month. We might anticipate that it'll be into the port by the end of the following month. And you can enter in all of your associated times and dates with this particular entry window. If you're anticipating receipt in your organization by June 30th, as I put that date in, this date I've configured to update the promise date of all the line items that's on the container. This way, other users in your Dynamics GP system using tools like the available to promise, or even going into a purchase order to see its expected receipt date or promise date, can see the most updated information, because as the manifest here is updated, all of the lines that are on that manifest will be updated within their associated purchase orders. Now I'm just adding the information here to tell the system what items are on this manifest. So I would just use the magnifying glass to select from my existing purchase orders. And as I select a purchase order, you'll see that the items that are on the purchase order will be shown here. These are the quantities on the original purchase order, the quantities that are unreceived, but also the quantities that are unassigned. When there's a difference here, this indicates that there are quantities on another manifest. So if I highlight this row and look at the quantity ordered, drilling down on the blue arrow, I will see that there's another manifest that has this line on it with a quantity of 20. If everything on this purchase order was going to be added into this manifest, I could just say insert all, and all of these quantities would be included on my manifest. If I know what I am expecting, and maybe it's only 60, and maybe it's 50 of these, then I can just type that information in, insert, and those lines will start to be added to my container. Now, based on the container type and how large and how heavy this container will allow items to be added, you'll see over here it'll start to measure how full the container is and how heavy the container is based on the information that we saw earlier in the apportionment window. At this point, if I would like to add landed cost, I could add a landed cost item here. And when I come in and make a selection, what I'll see is an additional capability. The standard apportionment methods in Dynamics GP for landed cost include the value, the quantity, and the weight. We've added the cube, which means that you could calculate and apportion the landed cost based on how much space that item is taking in the container, as opposed to one of these other apportionment options. Once I've completed the entry, I would be able to save the container. If I need to come back and add more items to it, I could certainly do that. And as I mentioned, those items that are on this container might all be from one vendor, and that may be your practice, or they might be from other vendors. So you can continue to select purchase orders and add items to the container as needed throughout this process. Now, generally at this time, you would continue to work on the container and save it, and then at some point you're notified that that container has been shipped and it's considered on the water. A couple of things might happen at this time. One might be that you update the dates now with the actual ship date. So if I have saved this container and I come back in to select it, I would see it here, and I could come in and update the actual ship date to now be 4/30. Maybe it was earlier or later, and I could update any other dates that need to be updated. If based on this and based on the information they have given you, they've told you that it's now due to your particular loading dock at June 25th, as I enter this date now, it will now update the promise date further for the line items that are on this particular manifest. The other thing that might happen right now is that you might need to receive these items into an in-transit location in your inventory. This is referred to as the FOB process. This generally occurs when you own the products as soon as they're on the water. In some cases, you may not own the products until they are received at your loading dock. But often what happens is the ownership transfers as soon as the items are on the water. In that case, with container management, you have the ability to either create an in-transit site ID in inventory and have the FOB process in this window make an entry and a receiving for these items into that in-transit location. Then, when the items are actually received at the loading dock, we will facilitate a transfer out of the in-transit location and into the location that was originally identified on the purchase order. In many customers' cases, they don't want a physical inventory receipt into their inventory system at the time of FOB. They just want a financial transaction or a journal entry to be entered in that represents the value of that inventory that's placed on the water. Either option is available in container management. For today's demo, we'll be doing a financial receipt. So when I choose to use the FOB process, I would choose the FOB button here. It will confirm my changes. And what it'll do is put in a green checkbox here, indicating that it has made that financial transaction to take the value of the inventory as is calculated along with the landed cost, and put into a journal entry representing the items that are on the water. At this point, I can save and close the window. Now, once the manifest has been received or is in the process of being received at your physical location, the receiving of the manifest can be done from the same window, the manifest entry window. I would just select my manifest, and then from here I would identify the quantity that's received. So I can see that I've expected these quantities. Often that's exactly what's received. If that's the case, you can simply say receive all, and it will update all of these quantities with the quantity expected. So if I choose receive all, I'll see that everything is updated. If I then realize that maybe I only received 45 of the items on this particular item, I can always make a change here and identify that there were only 45 actually received, even though 50 were expected. If the items or lot are serialized, I would then be prompted to enter in the serial or lot numbers that are related to that particular line item on the particular manifest. They would also be indicated here by a red S or a red L. Once this process is complete and I have done the receiving, I can post this manifest, and then we will create the purchase order receipts for the associated purchase orders based on setup options that we have in container management. You have an option to automatically post those receipts, or you can have us create a batch with a container management prefix, and a user can control the posting of that batch. If you're integrated with any of our other products, such as Operations Core, and your receiving is being done by your warehouse or WMS system, that will automatically update this window when you're using container management in conjunction with Operations Core. At this point, when I put in my received quantities, I can post the manifest. It will confirm that I want to post, and then it will also go in, save my changes, and then it will just remind me that there were lines that did not equal the expected and the receipt, confirm that I want to post anyways, and then it will go ahead and post that manifest. It will show me those differences, quantity expected versus quantity received, the totals, and if I had created this within FOB with an actual inventory site ID for the in-transit, it would have shown me the quantities that were transferred. And then once posted, either those receipts that have been created will be posted automatically, or if I go into my purchasing batches, I will see batches here with the prefix of CMT for container management, and they will show us that we do have batches that are available for posting that contain that receiving quantity. In the case of a multi-manifest shipment, you do have the ability to create each container. So if there's multiple containers arriving on a single shipment, you would create the manifest as we just walked through, and then within shipment entry you would be able to select all of the manifests that are on this particular shipment. This gives you that ability to manage all of the dates at the overall shipment level, and also, if necessary, apply landed cost across multiple containers within that shipment. You also have an import capability either at the individual container or at the individual shipment level. For more information about our container management product or any of our Blue Moon products, please visit our website at www.bluemoonISV.com. And thanks again for your interest in our products.